So welcome back, everyone. So we heard this morning from of one company's journey, AS Seal, to net zero. This afternoon we're going to hear two more stories. We're delighted that we've got two more guests with us this afternoon, Jackie. First we're going to hear about green steel from Rob. So Rob, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us who you work for?
So my name's Robert Cox. I work for Liberty Speciality Steels here at Stocksbridge at the HVM site. And my day-to-day job is plant manager for Test House and the Advanced Machining Centre site.
That's great, Rob. Thank you. So, and who are Liberty Steel and what do you do?
So Liberty Speciality Steel, we obviously produce steel, and we produce steel for the aerospace industry, the oil and gas industry, and industrial engineering. So what that means is that we are producing steel for aeroplanes, for oil rigs, for cars, bearings, and things like
that. So what's it like to work in the industry?
Personally, I find it absolutely fantastic. On a personal level, I can't believe that I come to work every single day and deal with the things that I deal with. So when you look at the industry, and I've travelled around quite a lot of the industry, some of the pieces are huge, they're big. Every single day is a challenge. Every single day is different. The people I work with are absolutely fantastic. They're all supported. We've got some fantastic technical knowledge. And honestly, fundamentally, every single day is a challenge, and it's an enjoyable
challenge. That's great to hear. So I suppose if you think about steel production, it's a very traditional industry, or we think of it that way quite often. Can you tell us how you as a company are sort of adapting to the modern world and developing for the future, looking towards future technologies? How's the business changing?
Yeah, sure. So it does change rapidly. So I'm now somewhere in the region of 25 years in the industry. So some aspects, yes, very, very traditional. You still see machines that are around from the 70s and the 80s. But then conversely, with one area that I'm working with, which is the Advanced Machining Centre, some of the machines are up-to-date, cutting-edge technologies. So some of the CNCs that we see are absolutely out of this world, some of the machines. Some other things that we're also looking at, some very, very high-level projects, if you like. So one big project that's underway up here at Stocksbridge at the moment is exploring augmented reality. So we are actually looking at augmented reality on the mill to aid with training, to speed training up, but also to look at how we produce the steel, how we roll it, and we can experiment almost in a computer game before we even touch live steel.
Wow, that's fascinating. That's exciting stuff then. Lots going on. So just thinking about, still on the theme of the future, Rob, sustainability and environmental protection are key challenges,
sure.
Not just in this country, but for the planet as a whole at the current time. And I guess for businesses in particular. So can you tell us how Liberty are sort of tackling those big issues as a business?
Sure. So one thing about Liberty Speciality Steels is there's probably a well-known fact, if you know the area, is that the majority of our steel, if not all our steel, is produced from scrap steel. So when you actually look at as far as recycling is concerned, we are one of the biggest recyclers in the country. You know, we are recycling big batches of scrap steel up to 160 tons. And we're doing that potentially between 24 and 48 times a day. And then also looking at GFG Alliance's green policy. So the environmentally neutral by 2030. And this is all looking at as electricity, how much we're using, the gases that we're using. There's certain articles at the moment talking about replacing gas with hydrogen. So obviously, Sanjeev Gupta's main drive for the steel industry is being carbon neutral by 2030.
That's great. That's good to hear you're already on a mission with that. That's great. Thanks, Rob. So a little bit about your job role then. We've heard about the company. So tell us a bit more about your day-to-day job role and what that involves.
Yeah, so my day-to-day job, so I'm obviously plant manager for testing is the first part that I'll talk about. So we produce steel, as I mentioned earlier on, for the aerospace industry, and we have very, very strict and stringent accreditations that we have to work with. So we have to make sure that the steel is fit for purpose. Now, my department that I work with, we test every single piece of steel that leaves this door. and we have to test it to stringent tolerances to make sure that it is fit for purpose. So when everybody's on holiday, everybody's flying in these planes, a lot of the steel that we use can be used in landing gear, so it's crucial that this material is tested and it is fit for purpose. So my day-to-day aspect on that is to lead the department and to lead a team and to make sure that we not only ensure the steel is fit for purpose, but we also fulfill the business needs and make sure we're doing enough tests to ensure that our customers get the steel in time.
Great. So really important job then.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So how tell us a bit about your journey, Rob. So how did you get from school to where you are today? Just tell us briefly what your story is.
Yeah, it's quite a long one, so I will try and condense because it has now been 30 years since I've done it. So yeah, I left school at 16 years old. I went straight into an apprenticeship. So I have a trade. My trade is a machinist. So predominantly I worked on turning and milling, which are machining processes, and then moved into CNC programming type roles and activities. At 23, I moved from being a machinist into the steel industry. So I actually work for what we call a refractories company. Refractories basically deal with bricks and materials that contain the steel, so quite a specialist market. From there, I've actually ended up traveling around the world. So my job and my role has seen me move between places like Chile, Kazakhstan, Northern America, Taiwan. I spent quite a long time there as well. Excuse me, traveling between all different steel industries and different sites, installing refractory products. I then joined Chorus back in 2007, where I worked down at Old Wall Cast Products, where the main furnaces are, and I worked on the casting side of the steel works, again looking after refractories. From there, I moved into operations, so that was the first time I moved into an operational role. So I actually took what we call a shift management role. So the shift management role is being in charge of an entire shift within the steelworks for that period of time while you're at work to make sure that you're hitting all your KPIs, all your safety aspects, and all your throughputs. Interesting from there, I then moved back into refractories, but I moved into an area called the Centre of Expertise. So the Centre of Expertise, again, supported Tata Steel Europe at the time as far as refractories are concerned. So I was titled with the area expertise for casting, for reheat furnaces, and for flow control materials as well. So that was all around probably 40% research and development, introducing new products, and then 60% around supporting the plants for any problems or any operational issues they saw. I then moved back to speciality. And when I moved back into the speciality role, I moved into a continuous improvement role and spent 2 or 3 years there. And then some 18 months ago, I was successful in securing my position as plant manager.
Excellent. So lots of experience in lots of different departments. That's great. So if there's a young person out there today thinking about this might be a sort of an industry I want to work in or a career I pursue, what sort of advice would you give them, Rob, as just starting out on that journey?
I think quite flippantly, I'd say dive in. And the reason I say dive in is because there are so many opportunities within the steel industry. People look at the steel industry as being quite small and quite narrow, but it truly isn't. It really isn't. If you look at all the different disciplines that we work within, you know, for myself alone, working between refractories, operations, research and development, continuous improvement, and now to plant management, it gives you some idea of the diversity you can find within the business. It is an absolutely fantastic company to work for. It really, truly is. I wouldn't be in the position I am in my life at the moment without the backing of this company. I really wouldn't. The training is phenomenal. You know, you will always be trained and you will always be supported. The only thing that we are asked of is that we show willing, and every single day we come to work and we work as utmost and try as hardest. So if you are interested in a career within Liberty Steel, I would say absolutely yes. All the way from operations, engineering, technical, all the way through to finance and accounting. There are so many varied roles. It really is a fantastic industry to be in.
So dive in and work hard, and hopefully you'll be successful.
I think dive in and work hard and you will be successful, I think, is the one that I'll say.
Great, thank you. So just a couple of final questions, Rob. So just back to thinking about the future again. So what would you like to see? You've talked about what Liberty's doing around the climate challenges. What would you like to see other businesses out there doing to tackle this issue?
As far as climate change, I mean, I spoke earlier on that yes, we are a big recycler of scrap steel. It's also true that the steel industry is a heavy user of carbon. Our carbon footprint is huge, not just from electricity, but also from some of those melting processes. So we look at integrated plants, which have got the big blast furnaces, these kind of things that have been around centuries now. Some of the projects that I've seen while I've been on my travels about reducing that carbon footprint are absolutely fantastic, but they are slow burning. I think what I would like to see more is more support for the industry to allow us to do this development and this research to be able to reduce that carbon footprint. I think that footprint is one of our biggest challenges moving forward.
That's great, thanks. So thank you so much for giving us a great insight into not just Liberty Steel, but your own sort of career in there. I've just got one final question for you. If you've got one message for the viewers, the young audience watching us today, what would your message be?
Oh, I think if it's you are looking at a career in the steel industry, and even if you're not, I would say it is challenging. The rewards are fantastic. And when I talk about rewards, not just personally, but the people that you get to work with, the challenges that you face every single day. Some of the, I'll say, equipment and gear that you get to touch and be a part of and in charge of, you wouldn't believe until you actually walk in and see it. It is absolutely phenomenal. When we talk about very, very basic elements of, I'm sorry, I'm going to say this, molten lava being at a temperature around 1250 degrees, we are melting steel at 1600 degrees Celsius. That is not an easy thing to do, and the technical challenges around it are fantastic. And the only way we can do that is by having good, strong, competent people around us that can deliver that.
That's great. So hopefully those people are out there listening today, and someone will be working within the industry in a few years' time. So thanks ever so much for your time today, Rob. I really appreciate your insight and sharing your experience with us. So thanks very much.
No, thank you very much. Thank you for the chance.
A really interesting insight, I think, Jackie. Who'd have thought sort of a very traditional industry playing its part in our future? But obviously there's lots of history there as well, well-established industry in our region.
Absolutely. I think coal and steel and iron, they've been around for centuries in Rotherham. Had a really great part of our history. In fact, my grandfather worked at what was British Steel then, which is now Liberty, and so did my father. But here's a fact for you. Did you know that in Rotherham we have got cannons that took part in the Battle of Trafalgar with HMS Victory, and they were made in Rotherham by the Walker family, and you can still see some of those cannons outside the town hall. And if you do venture up to Clifton Park Museum, you'll see the whole history of that family, and this goes back hundreds of years. So, like I say, it's absolutely fantastic that what was part of our legacy, part that made Rotherham great, continues to make Rotherham great. So yeah, fantastic story.
Yeah, that's great. So much history. We've affected the past. We're affecting the future.
Absolutely,
now, so
yeah, and lots of great jobs there as well. Yeah. I think what I found today really is, and from Monday as well, the variety of jobs and variety of careers across this sector. It's got something for everybody. It really has.
It has, and picking up on that theme, the history and a strong tradition, but also thinking about the great careers that are out there. We're now going to hear from Charlotte Adams. From the Coal Authority, who's going to talk to us about harnessing geothermal energy. So that's a hard word to say, isn't it, Jackie? Yeah,
it really is.
Harnessing geothermal energy. So, Charlotte, do you want to introduce yourself, and we'll find out a little bit more about what you do.
Hi, yes, thanks for the invitation to join you. My name's Charlotte Adams. I work for the Coal Authority, and I'm the commercial manager for Mine Energy. So my job is to promote and to help develop the abandoned mines that we own as a source of low carbon geothermal heat for the future.
We may all have an image of what the Coal Authority does, but can you tell us exactly what you do these days.
Yeah, I think a few people don't actually realise that we have a coal authority, and we are a non-departmental government body, and our role is to protect both people and the environment. So we were established in 1994, and the kind of things we do are we respond to things like ground instabilities, any subsidence impacts of mine closure, and we also protect the water resources from any water that might come out of the mines in future.
Okay, that's great. And what's it like to work in the sector, Charlotte?
Well, it's a great sector. I mean, the work I'm involved with is kind of energy related, so it's mainly the energy sector that I would say I'm involved with. And it's great because there's loads of different people from loads of different disciplines, all doing really interesting things. And I find there's also a lot of people who really care about what they're doing and want to make a difference. So I think that's a really positive place to be working, where we're all kind of working to address future challenges and, you know, using our brains and our scientific interest to kind of drive that forwards.
Obviously, building a better world for the future and creating sustainable sources of energy is a key priority for all of us all over the world. So the coal authority seem to have a role to play in this. What's the industry doing at the moment, and how do you see things changing in the future?
We need to find other sources of energy. We need to find low carbon energy sources, and particularly for heat, because half of our energy demand is for heat. And at the moment, we're very reliant on gas for that. Gas is obviously a fossil fuel, so that's something we need to phase out of energy use going forwards. So I think in the future, we're likely to see developments in things like hydrogen as an alternative source to using gas. And hopefully the work I'm doing on geothermal will come to the forefront as well as an alternative low carbon source of heat. So I think we'll see more of a mix in our energy system, both in terms of what we use to produce electricity and also what we use to produce heat. And in the case of heat, we might see things like an increase in heat networks. So all of the homes or buildings in a particular area will be connected to one network, and they would get the heat from that rather than having an individual boiler in each of the buildings. So, you know, for us as people and homeowners, and you'd be homeowners of the future, it may be a change in the way you heat your homes and a change in what you have in your homes. So those are the kind of things you might see going forwards.
That's great, thanks. And so, what sort of employment roles are there within the coal authority? You know, thinking about young people and careers, apprenticeships, graduates. What sort of opportunities are there in the industry?
I would say, I mean, within the organisation and the industry in general, there are roles at every level. We do have apprenticeships. We also have people who I think are doing apprenticeships as part of their existing role as well, to either learn a bit more or change slightly what they're wanting to do. I formerly worked at a university before I joined the Coal Authority, and I'm pleased to say that some of my former students now work at the Coal Authority with us, which makes me feel a bit old, but is quite nice. But there's lots of opportunities at any level you want to take it, really.
So, tell us a little bit more about your job role, then, Charlotte. What exactly do you do?
So a little bit of background to what I do. We have around about 23,000 abandoned deep coal mines across the UK, and they sit beneath around a quarter of our built environment. So a quarter of our homes and businesses effectively may be sitting on top of a coal mine. And we can use the coal mines as a source of geothermal energy because a lot of them contain water now. After the mines were abandoned, they filled with water, and that water has some heat in it, which comes from the geothermal heat within the earth. So we're looking at taking that water out, taking energy from it, and putting the water back underground. So we get somebody that will come to us, and at the moment it's mainly local authorities, and they'll say, we're thinking of doing a development in a certain area. Could we have a mine energy or geothermal scheme? So my work involves looking at the mine plans that we have to see whether the mines are underneath the site, what the water level situation is underneath the site, and then advise on whether a scheme is possible and how they would go about doing that. So we'd maybe tell them where they need to put boreholes in, what the water quality might be like, the depth of boreholes, how many they'd need. So we get to help design the scheme as well. So we kind of start at the very start of the process doing feasibility work for them, and eventually get to the development phase where we're helping them to get a final project going. So it's a really exciting process, and I really enjoy the different things we do day to day.
Wow, that's amazing. Who would have known all of that was going on under many of our homes and the areas we live? That's fascinating. Thanks, Charlotte. So tell it. You mentioned going to university and doing this job. Tell us a little bit more about your own journey from school to where you are today.
Well, I've always been quite interested in mines, and this began at school really. So on my first geology field trip when I was 16, so that's when I kind of started my GCSEs, I took geology, and we were lucky to have a great inspirational teacher there who took us to an abandoned mine, metal mine in the North Pennines. And we were looking on the spoil heaps there for minerals. So I came home at the end of the day with a bag full of rocks and was absolutely hooked on geology and thought mines are really interesting to me. And that carried forwards to university. So I studied environmental geology, and my PhD was looking at the impacts of abandoned mines on water quality. So I kept that interest in mining going right the way through. And then after doing some academic research, I wanted to go out into industry, and I worked in the renewable energy industry looking at geothermal. But because I was working in consultancies, I also got exposed to other projects as well. So working on wind, hydrogen, biomass. And that was great because I'd say working at these smaller consultancies like I was at, because there's not as many staff, you often get involved in a wider range of things. So that's something to think about if you're interested in those kind of jobs. So I worked in the industry for a few years, just soaking up a load of information about all the different kind of energy sources and the energy industry in general. Then I had a break for a couple of years when I had family, and then I joined Durham University, where I was for 11 years before I joined the Coal Authority a year ago. And at Durham, again, I was using my experience on abandoned mines to work on geothermal and other energy research topics. And then I wanted to kind of get beyond the research into the development phase, and that's why I joined the Coal Authority, so I could put the stuff that I'd been learning and researching into action.
That's great, fascinating story. So maybe for young people out there who maybe have a similar interest to you, Charlotte, and are thinking about pursuing this as a career, what advice would you give them?
I would say find out as much as you can about the particular thing that you're interested in. And if you can get any work experience, maybe you have family, friends or relatives, or maybe through school, there might be an opportunity to go and do a little bit of work in one of those businesses or areas that you're interested in. So definitely do that to get a feel of what it's like on the inside. Keep up to date as well. So obviously keep up with current news in that field. You could also follow some inspirational people who are working in that area on social media and see what they're up to and the kind of things they're involved with. And also see if you can find mentors. So those are kind of people who will be willing to give their time to help support you at every stage in your journey. So whether you're at school, uni, or in a job. And I've been really lucky to have some brilliant mentors, both male and female, who've supported me over the years. Which is why I like having these kind of conversations today. It's nice to try and give something back because so many people help me. So I definitely find mentors to support you as well, as much as you can.
That's great, thanks, Charlotte. That's brilliant advice. Thank you for that. So just a couple of final questions from me. So what exciting opportunities do you think are on the horizon for the Coal Authority as an organisation? What's coming next?
Well, it's an exciting time for us because we have various things are associated with the mines. So we pump water from them and we treat the water, and that creates some byproducts. So we're finding a market for the water. So the water can be used for other purposes. The byproducts that come out of the mine, we produce this material called ochre, which is a very kind of dark red colour, mainly based on iron. That can be used for pigments and soil improvements. And then also there's the heat. So we have all these kind of products from the mines which actually have value. So something that's been seen as a liability, whereas abandoned mines, maybe thought of as something you don't want and they're a problem. we're actually turning that round into something that has value for lots of different purposes. And over the next couple of years, we expect to see the first 2 geothermal mine energy demonstrators up and running. So we'll get a huge interest and growth in interest following those as well. So it's really exciting time for us.
That's excellent. Certainly sounds it, and we need to keep an eye on how things develop, really. So one final question from me, Charlotte. So do you have one final message for our audience today? What would that be?
I would say it's really, really important to do a job you enjoy if you can, because you could be doing it for several years. So make sure you pick something that you love. That doesn't mean you'll necessarily be in the same job all that time. I've moved around quite a bit, but you might have a continual thread or theme that goes through that. So make sure that's something you love. And if you're passionate about it, don't let anybody put you off doing it. Don't let any little comments or self-doubt put you off going for it. And try and surround yourself with like-minded people who can be there for you, so you can bounce ideas off them, help each other, and generally support each other.
Thanks ever so much for that, Charlotte. And again, another fascinating insight into a very traditional industry and what that industry is now doing to shape our future. So I think that's the end of today, Jackie. That's our live sessions. I'm sorry.
Shame.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed it.
Good.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. Thank you for inviting me. So what we're going to see tomorrow? Obviously, I'll not be here, but I'll be watching virtually on this fantastic platform that you've got. So what can we look forward to tomorrow?
Well, it's a slightly different day tomorrow, Jackie. Tomorrow is our student takeover day. So we've got a lot of the content has been created by students at the university, the college, and some projects of students in school. So some of our viewers will probably know some of those people. So we're going to hear all about young people's journeys and what they think about what the future holds in store for us in the world of STEM.
Well, that sounds really interesting. I'll look forward to watching that. And I think, that's what it's about. It's about young people. The future's in your hands, all of you. We want a great world, we want a sustainable world, we want a wonderful world, and I guess this is what it's all about, inspiring you. So I really look forward to tuning in on that on virtually, John. And once again, thank you for inviting me. Been a brilliant couple of days. I really enjoyed it, and I hope you're all getting a lot from it. There's so much more to see tomorrow for the rest of the week, isn't there? Thank you.
There absolutely is, and thanks for joining us, Jackie. Good to see you back with us, and we'll see you again soon. And we'll see all of you again soon. Thanks very much.
Sheffield is home to an advanced manufacturing park, and the area as a whole has a key role to play, I think, in our aim of making the UK the best place in the world to do science.
The North Star, the St Paul's Way Summer Science School and the Well North Enterprises Partnership encourages innovation and opportunity to inspire your generation. Our vision is for the UK to become the best place in the world to practice science, technology, engineering, arts and maths.
Landing checks. Undercarriage. Down 3 green. Plates. 4,200 green. Fuel. It's good. We've got 13,500 pounds. Landing ramps. Can go up, I suppose. Flashing arrival. Can't be finals. Yeah, no.
Gaining qualifications is a key stepping stone to future employment.
It's important because you never really get these opportunities in life, and it really helps with your future more than you think it will. On your CV, your confidence will improve a lot. From these 4 days, you can see a difference between everyone you've met.
But qualifications alone do not guarantee success in finding, keeping and progressing in employment.
I think it really helps young adults to develop their skills and become more employable to help their future careers.
Our Summer Academy gives young people the opportunity to gain key skills and attributes that employers are looking for.
Personally, I think I've gained a lot of confidence, self-esteem, and that will definitely help me out in the future. Plus, I've also learned how to write CVs, which I didn't know before.
Our week-long, fun and interactive programme is designed for students aged 14 to 18 who are keen to get a head start.
I have more knowledge about jobs and how things work, especially engineering.
Join us this summer and discover the world of work.